Welcome, everyone. Today, I'd like to enter with you into woowoo-land. I'd like to talk about the eighth sphere, or the sphere of the fallen beings. This term comes from Rudolf Steiner, and he observed within the universe, everything goes in cycles. And the cycle is complete after 7 turns. So after 7 turns, another cycle begins. So it's always the number 7, 1 to 7. And the 8 means that it's not within the cycle any longer. It means it somehow fell behind. It somehow is removed out of this cyclical nature. So if you look at consciousness, consciousness is continuously evolving, and it's impacted by streams, and it's impacted by tendencies, and therefore it's moving through some kind of processes, which can be seen as initiation processes. So if a form of consciousness is not able to pursue any further, they are stuck within that moment and they are falling behind. And it's also interesting how Steiner describes what evil is. He says that evil is something which is stuck in time. So something which is out of that cycle, which is more or less not evolving any further, but which is stuck there and stuck within that consciousness, and then it turns evil. It's interesting to learn more about it, especially within the regression work. You're going to meet some kind of interesting experiences, and I had them myself as well every now and then. If you want to connect to your higher consciousness, you usually move through the 8th sphere, which is the sphere of the fallen beings. And it's very good to understand this realm and to have a certain discernment in regards to what you receive as information, because they are very tricky. And very often there is a huge intelligence within that, but it's removed from the heart. And that's very often your way of finding out, is it actually coming from something higher, or is it actually the 8th sphere tricking me? So these fallen behind beings, they are out of the live stream and they cannot incarnate any longer. They don't have the ability to have a body any longer, because they are so degenerated that the physical form cannot take their spirit, which means they more or less need someone else to nourish them. So if they decided, okay, I'm not going to continue in that cycle of initiation any longer, means they are not having any access to the live stream any longer, because it's the live stream that's carrying the consciousness forwards. And by that, this means they do rely on other beings being their food, being their nourishment, which means sometimes you do experience people, clients, mentioning, I feel there's some other energy interfering with me. I feel there's some foreign energy here. And when I hear that, these are the signs, the signals for me to dive deeper and find out what is going on there. So sometimes you find some earthbound spirits, which also fell back behind in their development. And they are earthbound because they are afraid of facing what they have done, or they are obsessed with something. They are somehow maybe even addicted to something, and they don't want to leave that place. And therefore they really are stuck there in that density. They don't return back to the light. They stay there. And by that, they sometimes try to take over someone else's body so they can fulfill their needs. Sometimes they want to make someone else drink alcohol or use drugs or whatever. These urges are still present within them and are moving them, motivating them sometimes. And with demonic entities, it's quite similar. just keep in mind, everything was birthed out of creation. So everything, someone came from the light, but somehow they lost the track. And very often it is a choice to stay stuck there, or it's because they are too afraid, or they are not willing to face the consequences, whatever, but they are stuck within that state. And then if you experience like a demonic entity showing up, it's very often interesting to ask them what happened. And then they share their stories, and they share it from their perceptions. And their perception is very much biased, is filtered, like everyone's perception, every human perception as well. We see the world through our lens of experience. And if it's almost like doing therapy work with the earthbound spirit or with the demonic entity, so they can return back to the life cycle. They can return back to the light. And by that, re-enter, keeping in mind that these earthbound spirits or these demonic entities, we don't usually see them. We don't usually perceive them because we are so focused on our five senses, and our five senses are so trained to only perceive the material or the sphere that we allow ourselves to perceive. So therefore, it's very difficult for us to get a grip or grasp the demonic sphere somehow, because they are out of our perception very often. But if you really are interested in spiritual work, it's very important for you. It's very essential to understand this kind of sphere, because it's usually messing with your perception. It's usually messing with what you receive as information. It's also sometimes putting a filter on it. If you really love mysticism and love to learn more about it, I highly recommend looking into Gigi Young's work. She's such a fantastic mystic. If you love to explore this for yourself, if you feel there's something interfering, if you feel there's some foreign energy interfering with your life, I'm more than happy to provide sessions for that. That's my work, that's my passion. And I hope this somehow was helpful. If you wish to learn more about any of these aspects, just let me know. And because I'm so happy to share more about it. And it's for sure not the last video about this kind of topics. So happy to see you. Hopefully seeing you next time. Take good care and goodbye for now.